In this video, we're going to analyze Scottie's three-point shot and see why he regressed in his second year. This video is going to focus on his shot in year 2, with the main focus being on his shooting and catch and shoot situations, since they were the majority of the shots that he took in both years 1 and 2. Also, this video will have a heavy focus on the gather, and in particular where he gathers the ball. I consider the gather point a crucial step in the shot process, because it's where you're gathering your energy to go in your upward progression. Also, it's where your upper and lower bodies start to separate, and I truly believe it's where you start to develop your feel for your shot. Now I consider the gather point where the level of the ball is when both feet touch the ground and you're starting your upward progression. I'm going to categorize the gather point in 3 areas. A low gather, which is when the majority of the ball is below the waist. A mid gather is when the ball is at the waist and below the sternum. And a high gather is when the ball is at the level of the chest. And this definition applies to standstill catch and shoot shots, or when you're taking a step or two into a shot. After Scottie's rookie year shooting 30% on mostly catch and shoot threes, it was clear that some adjustments were necessary to improve his shot. I noticed this transformation in the offseason when he began shooting with a high gather during team workouts. This was a noticeable change because coming into the NBA during his pre-draft workouts and rookie year, he had more of a mid-gather, as you can see from these clips. This change in the shot mechanics raised some concerns, and I believe raising his gather was the wrong decision while trying to improve his shot. By introducing the high gather, Scottie's shooting form would often vary, alternating between shooting with his old form, a more natural shooting motion, and shooting with the high gather. This resulted in his shot attempts being taken with gather points from low to high. As a result, his shot sequencing would change all too often when faced with similar catch and shoot scenarios, which impacted his consistency and accuracy and ultimately led to his regression. When comparing his shot in similar situations, the difference in sequencing becomes apparent. Scottie gets noticeably lower on the gather in the video on the left than on the right. On the left, as he catches the ball, he does a better job of lowering himself while dipping the ball. This helps engage his hips in his shot, helping to produce power from his legs and core. As a result, his follow-through is a lot more fluid. Scottie maintains a steady core as he transitions from the gather to the release, demonstrating excellent shooting posture on his follow-through, which signifies a shot with good stability. And in this clip with his back in a more vertical position on the catch, and also keeping the ball high to maintain a high gather, you can see that his shoulders are more in line with his heels and not his midfoot. This puts Scottie in a position where he can't hip hinge, which would sink his hips in a more loaded position, like in the Steph Curry clip. The hip hinge would allow him to apply force into the ground, and then spring himself upwards and release the ball in a fluid motion. But because of his stance and high gather, Scottie isn't able to utilize his hamstrings that well because of the lack of hip hinge, forcing him to overuse his quads. This creates an imbalance in his shot between the quads and hams, 2 muscle groups that work in opposition to each other. So with the high gather, it forces him to use his quads more in his shot, as you can see by how his knees dip forward right away from the use of the hip flexors and quads. When the knees move forward first in this manner, I like to call it quad loading. As a result, his inability to generate force early in his shot with a high gather shows in the follow-through with the forward push, disengaging the core as he transitions from the set point to the release. This is an added variable to his shot that is not seen with his form with a low gather. This results in different shot sequencing between the two forms. Using different shooting forms in similar situations adds unnecessary variability to his three-point catch-and-shoot shot, affecting his overall consistency and complicating his mechanics, ultimately leading to his regression. And for the record, I think in the first example he gets a little too low, but I wanted to highlight the extreme in both approaches and how much variation he has in his shot. Ideally, his best form in my opinion is a mix between the two shots, which looks like an attempt that he took in his rookie year. He doesn't get as low like in the first clip, and he also doesn't stay too high like in the second clip, being able to find the middle ground. His dip is natural and his release point is slightly lower, which is more optimal to achieve a 45-degree arc, so that there's less spread depth when the ball enters the hoop, meaning there's less chance of the ball hitting the rim and more chance of it landing in the center for a swish. And lastly, our most balanced position is where our center of mass is. As humans, when we stand up straight, our center of mass is near our belly button. As we drop down or lower ourselves, our center of mass also moves lower. The better you can get at gathering near your center of mass, the more unbalanced you will be. By dipping the ball, you're forcing yourself to get lower. This helps with decelerating and gathering near your center of mass, resulting in better body control and balance, which will give you better stability on your shot as opposed to the old school method of catch high, keep high, by never bringing the hands down on the catch, essentially shooting with a high gather. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and got something away from it. Peace.